It's about reminding people around you that they have their own power, that they have their own strength, that they can be the agents of change. And if you can remind them of that, and if you can bring people together and have them see each other with the commonalities that they share, that's the power of being able to influence a group of people.
Welcome to another episode of Chief Influencer. I'm your host, Anthony Shop, co-founder of Social Driver. Let's face it, Washington is the center of influence in the US and arguably in the world. Chief Influencer features leaders who have figured out how to break through in today's fragmented and fast-changing environment. Social Driver teamed up with the Communications Board and the George Washington University College of Professional Studies to recognize these incredible leaders as chief influencers and highlight how they inspire and influence others. I am thrilled to welcome today's guest, Debbie Mucarsel-Powell, former member of Congress and now executive director of the Graduate School of Political Management at the George Washington University, where she's shaping future leaders in public service and civic life. And of course, GW is our wonderful chief influencer partner. Debbie, you have been called a connector who builds coalitions grounded in trust and shared purpose, a trailblazer as the first South American-born immigrant to serve in Congress, and a champion for expanding opportunity through education, engagement, and democratic participation. Well, today we're thrilled to call you a chief influencer. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Anthony. It is such a pleasure, but also an honor to be on your show, on the podcast, and following some incredible leaders like President Granberg, who was also on your show just a few weeks ago. It truly is an honor to be considered and surrounded by such incredible leaders at GW.
Well, thank you so much for making time to do it. Thank you for saying that. And, you know, we've had these incredible leaders from the world of politics and public service, and also incredible leaders from the world of academia. And you are bringing those two together for us today. And so this is going to be such a great discussion. And before we talk all about your exciting new role as the executive director of GSPM, I wanted to make sure that our community has a chance to learn more about you and about your story. You immigrated from Ecuador to the United States at the age of 14, watching your mother work 3 jobs to support you and your sisters. I just wanted to start by asking how those early years and how her example, I noticed the Future is Female book behind you, by the way. So I think your mother's example was probably really powerful. But just tell us how that influenced you and give us a little sense of your life and what led you to where you are today.
Well, I'm the youngest of 4 sisters, and so we're a family of mostly women. I have 2 daughters and a son, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity that my mother has given me and gave to my sisters. She was actually, I think, a trailblazer in her own right. She decided early on that she needed to bring us, my sisters and I, to the United States looking for opportunities. Her and my dad had gotten a divorce. I was very young when this happened, and she wanted to make sure that she could work and give us a better life, a life that she knew would be much more difficult in my birth country of Ecuador. And I saw how she came here not really knowing the language, and she started working immediately. She had 2 jobs, and she would go and learn English at night, sometimes on the weekdays, and then on the weekends. I remember her Saturday mornings leaving very early to go and learn English. And so she really instilled in me that true dedication for hard work. And I think her story is the testament that in this country, if you work hard and if you have a community behind you, really anything is possible. It's something that I have said throughout my career. I mean, only in this incredible country, Anthony, does somebody like myself, someone that wasn't born here, that was brought here at an early age, is able to get an incredible education, work at some great institutions like now at GW, but be elected to become the first South American elected member of Congress. Through her, I realized that I couldn't take anything for granted. Any opportunity that came to me, I took advantage of that. But also that the ethic of hard work, because here truly you can do anything, you can achieve anything. And that is truly the promise of the American dream, that even though some people think that it doesn't exist any longer, I remind them that we can still achieve the American dream, but only if you work very hard and only if you have community behind you. And I truly believe that.
Oh, that's a wonderful story. And she must have been an amazing, amazing person. Just what you described, what you witnessed as a young person. I know you've even described your childhood as a time when you were learning a whole new world, new language, new systems, new expectations. How do you think navigating that transition has informed the leader that you have now become?
Yeah, I came from a city that was, I would say, a small bubble in the way that we were brought up in Ecuador. And when I came here, there were so many different people that I met very quickly that came from different places in the world, that had different religious backgrounds, different ethnicities. And I was able to learn from them, their stories, their reasons for coming to the United States. I also learned to listen and to make sure that I understood where people were coming from. When you come from such a small country like Ecuador and you come to the United States, you really are confronted with so many changes, different cultures, different food, even. I mean, I remember, and I still do, I miss Ecuadorian food quite a bit. And you have to adapt and you have to learn very quickly how to adapt to a completely different society. It's much more fast paced and, like I said, very diverse here in the United States. But it taught me the art of listening, which so many of us have forgotten. And I think that anything that I do now in my career, anywhere I go, I always start by listening, asking questions, always starting from a place of curiosity of who that person is, what is bringing them to that particular space at that time, um, asking them about their story, because you learn so much when you listen, and you are able to build coalitions in a way that you wouldn't otherwise if you didn't have that open mind. And that's why I'm so grateful that I came at the age that I came, and that I was able to meet so many different people from different backgrounds. I now am always curious to learn, who that person is, what brought them here. And like we say, Anthony, this country really truly has been built by immigrants, whether you're a first generation immigrant or a third generation immigrant. Everybody has their story. And there's so much more that connect us than that it doesn't connect us. So I always start with that place of being curious and listening.
I'd love to ask a follow-up about just listening, because that's such an important theme I've heard from many chief influencers. You have to allow yourself to be influenced. You have to listen. And I'm thinking, as a public servant, as a member of Congress, listening has evolved, right? Obviously, we still have in-person meetings, but now there's this whole element of social media where someone back in your district can type out something on their phone, and now, a bunch of people are seeing it and liking it, and we have to listen to all of that. How do you think that has changed how public servants get influenced by different stakeholders and their constituents? And how did that impact you being a public servant with that different new technology?
That's a great question, because it continues to impact all the work that we do, even in higher education. I mean, I think that you have to stay focused and true to your values, to your goals. You can't be distracted by too much noise. So much of social media has become false accounts, bots that are saying things that are coming from, AI, for instance, is really influencing the way that we're communicating as well. So you have to make sure that you don't get distracted by a lot of the noise in social media, but at the same time, reminding people that it is the main means of communication, especially in the political world. So you do have to pay attention. And one of the things that we did when I was in Congress, in my office, is we were taking a lot of calls, and we were, of course, paying attention to what people were saying in social media. And then we would have meetings about what we were hearing from our district, what were their concerns of my constituents. Sometimes you get a lot of calls from people that don't even live in the district. So you have to focus on the people that you are representing. In my district, I represented fishermen in Monroe County in the Florida Keys. I represented some farmers in Homestead. I represented a very diverse community in the city of Miami. And they all had different goals and different interests and different concerns. But at the end of the day, like I said before, they were very much connected by the same values. We all want the same things. We want our children to thrive. We want to live in a safe community. We want to be able to have a good paying job and just have those opportunities come to us so that we can support our families. And those are the links that bring everybody together, because my district was diverse, not just by partisanship, but it was very diverse in the different groups that I represented.
And you raised something there that I think is so important for leaders and communicators to hear and remember, which is this technology gives us the power to listen to people wherever they are, but there are bots infiltrating this. And so we can't just assume that a post on social media necessarily does come from that constituent or a real human. We have to bring a level of discernment today that, I don't know. I'm sure there's always been, people writing fake letters or something, but I mean, obviously it's gotten supercharged through AI and technology. And, we've seen some of that even just
Yeah.
recently with
And
text.
most of the world, I mean, Anthony, sorry to interrupt you here, but I've so many times I remind people that what you see on social media isn't necessarily the real world. I mean, you need to be present in these communities. You need to be having one-on-one conversations with people face to face, not hiding behind that social media screen. You need to also remind people that what they're seeing may not be necessarily based on facts, that they have to do their own research, that they have to do their own, they have to have their own questions for the things that they're seeing on social media. And so I'm a mom, I have 3 kids, and I remind them of that. Sometimes they come to me with some story that I haven't heard, and I ask them, where do you see that? And of course, it's Instagram, it's TikTok.
Yeah.
We look a little bit more and we dig deeper, and then we realize it wasn't a real story. So really important for everyone to take that responsibility and educate your family and your community, just to dig a little deeper when you see something that just doesn't sound right. Sometimes it may just not be a true story.
Yeah, that's a great point. You have that with your kids, and then many of us also have it with our parents too, right? Where we have to, where'd you hear that? I don't think that's true. It's a good reminder across generations. Let me ask you, public service has become such a defining thread of your career. When did you realize that you were meant to use your voice to serve others?
I remember this very, very clearly. I was working at FIU here at Florida International University, one of a huge public university here in Miami. And I was working at the medical school. We were trying to expand access to good quality healthcare in communities here in South Florida. And I remember listening to many stories. This one woman who knew that she may have breast cancer, but didn't have insurance to go get it checked. She couldn't get time off because she was an hourly employee, and she needed to make sure that she was getting that paycheck so that she could provide for her kids. And we had at the time a mobile clinic, and we provided that mammogram for her, and it had already advanced, and we were able to connect her to the hospital. But a cancer that could have been prevented from metastasizing, but she didn't have the care that she needed. She didn't have the access. She didn't even know where to go for support. And at that same time, I remember they were passing healthcare bills that were very hurtful to the community that I was working in at FIU. As I was trying to expand access to healthcare, I was seeing legislators cut that access. And so that was a moment that was very important to me, that made me decide to step up, run for higher office, run for Congress, because the impact that I was making was smaller, and I wanted to make a higher impact, help more people so that they can have that access to better quality healthcare. And it was at that moment that I said, I have to do that.
I mean, it sounds like, yeah, you saw that, like, we need to change policy, like, at a bigger level if we're going to help folks like that woman who was in that situation. So many people have probably had it cross their mind, well, maybe I should run for something. And then they say, no way, I can't do it. Or, oh, I don't want to get involved with this now because it just seems so tough and people are going to be attacking you. What helped? I mean, were those barriers for you? And what helped you overcome? You must have had people around you saying, are you crazy? Why would you even want to go do that?
Well, my family, right? My mom, I remember my mother's, why do you want to get into that world? My father had already passed away, but believe me, Anthony, he would have been the first to say, no, I'm not going to let you do this. He didn't even like that I studied political science. He thought that it wasn't a place that he wanted me to be in, but it's always been my passion. And I think it is from being able to serve a community and to impact policy, not just for a small group of people, but for a larger group. And that really has been my passion for years now. Um, my kids were very young at the time. My two younger children were in elementary school when I decided to run. It was a very tough conversation to have with my husband. He supported me from day one because he knew that that was something that I felt very passionate about. He thought that I would be a great public servant. So he, from the very beginning, said, I'll support you in anything that you do. And that was important to me because of my children. And of course, many moms in the school came to me and said, you shouldn't be doing this. Who's going to take care of the children? And I reminded them that they did have a father and that I wouldn't be absent, that I was just going to be doing a different type of work. But when you run for the first time, and this is a message that I would love for anyone listening to really pay attention to, you will hear so many people tell you that it's not possible. You will hear so many no's before those yeses. And yes, I will support you. And yes, I will believe in you. And I think that you have to find that voice and that power within yourself. And that's something that I've always carried true to me. And in anywhere I go, people need to be reminded of their own strength, of the power that they have, that if they feel that this is something that they want to do and must do, that we need good public servants now more than ever, and that nothing or anyone should stop you. And again, going back to the story of my mother, if you work hard, if you are committed, if you have people behind you that will support in your efforts, you can do it. And I'm here to help and mentor anyone that's thinking about running for office.
Oh, that's amazing. So you run, you're successful, you end up representing Florida's 26th district, that, as you mentioned, is really diverse, multilingual, economically varied, going from Miami down through the Keys. Must be one of the most beautiful districts of the country. I mean, that coastline. What did you learn serving such a complex district? What did you not know going in that you learned after having that experience?
I've always been an idealist, and I was so excited and so grateful to have been elected, and I was ready to do the work. And very quickly, you see that there were a lot of people that were not supportive of my election, and you need to earn their trust, and you need to go and be where they're at and have conversations, and again, listen to the concerns that they had. What were the issues that they were most interested in? What challenges were they facing? How could I help by representing them in Congress? And always taking that partisan hat out. And a lot of the issues that affected this district, like, the impacts of climate on the Keys, the way that hurricanes have been impacting our coast. We're seeing right now coral reefs dying along the coast of our Florida coral reefs. And those are issues that impact our economy, our livelihood, families all across Florida. And it's not a partisan issue. And so really having those one-on-one conversations, listening to them, being present as much as I could be to earn their trust. And I think that I hopefully I was able to do that with the majority of my constituents. And in that way also, I always said I have an open door in my office, whether here in Miami or in Washington, D.C. You can come with any issue at any time. I work for you. I am your representative. And we built some really great coalitions, and I was very present throughout the entire term. One of the things that happened when I was serving in Congress is that we were hit by COVID. And that created a completely new and different challenge for my service and for my reelection in 2020. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue my term in 2021.
You mentioned coalitions, and I'm hearing a lot more about coalitions from our chief influencers. It's just such a powerful way to get people together to achieve things that you couldn't achieve on your own. Could you share a little bit more about what lessons you learned that others who might be thinking of building or rebuilding a coalition might want to hear in today's environment?
You have to, you talk about how do you influence individuals, and it's not what you say to them. It's not what you tell them what to do. I'm going to go back to reminding them of their own power and the voice and the strength that they have in creating change. And knowing that when you bring people together, when they see what they share with one another, they will be the greatest agents of change when they come together. And that's what I mean by building a coalition. Whether it's individuals that are fighting for better economic opportunities. I was just with one of our students doing mental health advocacy. There are so many people that share those concerns, and they are the ones that are able to enact change when they remember that the power is from within and also
Yeah.
coming together. And so I learned that when I was in Congress, when I had constituents visit me in large groups, in large numbers, and follow up with me to remind me of issues that were important to them. That's the way that we can impact change. And people need to remember that. And in the United States, representatives do serve the constituents that elected them. Constituents have the responsibility to remind their representatives what it is that they need them to do to improve their livelihood and to improve our country, to build a more unified and more prosperous country. It has to be a two-way relationship, constituents, people reminding the representatives to do that for them.
This episode is brought to you by the George Washington University's College of Professional Studies. With in-person and online programs ranging from master's degrees in public relations strategy to certificate programs in digital communications, GW offers more than just the credentials to help working professionals get ahead. It prepares them to be leaders in their field. Check out cps.gwu.edu for more information.
Yeah, I love that. Just reminding people of their own power. And we know one of the ways that, we can use that power is through storytelling to help, get those messages out in a way that connects with others. And in Congress, you served on the Judiciary Committee and you served on the Immigration and Citizenship Subcommittee. I wonder if you could talk about how those experiences may have shifted or informed your perspective on whose stories break through in Washington, which stories get left out, and how we can better tell stories to influence.
Anthony, and I'm sure that you understand what I mean when I say it's not the loudest and the noisiest voices that get heard. I mean, it is those personal stories that legislators really listen to. I remember sitting in the Judiciary Committee, and there was a hearing that we had. It was for criminal justice reform, and it was hearing from women who had been incarcerated for misdemeanors, many of them who had been pregnant when they were incarcerated, taken away from their families, had to give birth overnight, taken to a hospital, and then sent back to prison without their babies. I mean, those were heart-wrenching stories that made all of us, in a bipartisan way, look at ways that we could improve the prison system, how we can actually protect women, especially with the healthcare and the healthcare of their babies. I mean, it was a truly impactful and powerful hearing that made me see certain things in a different way. And it's those personal stories, the ones that you don't get to hear every day on social media or on cable news or on national news. Those are the stories that help us and guide us in government to pass legislation that will improve the lives of so many Americans living in the United States. And I say us, I'm not in Congress anymore, but I think I always carry with me that if we work closely with our representatives and we bring those personal stories to them, they do listen and they do try and find ways, as difficult as it is to pass legislation, they try to find ways to improve the lives of people living in our country.
Well, part of what makes those personal stories connect so much, it sounds like, is that they're authentic, right? I mean, they're really coming from that person's lived experience and they're rooted in that. And I guess that's also a lesson that we've heard from some other chief influencers, just from a leadership standpoint. If we want to break through with our message as leaders, we have to find that authenticity. We have to connect in that way. How have you found ways to authentically connect and tell your own story to reach peers, to reach the electorate, to reach others as you have leveraged your own influence throughout your career?
It's not easy. I can tell you as a woman, especially someone that was not born here in the United States, someone that had to work very hard to get to where I was, sometimes it felt like I had to have a different face, or I had to have a very manicured answer so that I could appear at all times 100% professional, so that people could respect who I was, so that people could actually take me seriously in the endeavor that I was undertaking, especially running for Congress. And you quickly realize that that's not being true to the community, and it's not being true to yourself. And it's so much easier, and it's so much more powerful when you find your own voice and you can express that voice truly, passionately, connect with others. That's what people want. People want to know who you are, especially when you're serving, especially when you're running for higher office, when you're going to be in government. There's so much mistrust in our institutions, so much mistrust in politicians that are elected. And the only way to break through that barrier is to be truly and honestly your full self, and bring yourself to those rooms to share with the people that want to get to know you and want to listen to you. What drives you? Why do you want to serve? And when you share your personal story, when you share the sacrifices, the challenges that you have faced, you connect with so many people because everyone has those challenges. And they know that someone that has already gone through some tough times, they're going to remember what it's like to go through very, very difficult times, and you can connect with them so much more easily. And so it's taken me a long time. It doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, it's you learn from experiences, you learn from falling down and making mistakes. And I tell my children all the time that mistakes are a great opportunity for you to learn how to do things in a better way for yourself. I mean, if we don't make mistakes, we don't learn. Life is not perfect. Things keep evolving, especially in the political world. Things change all the time. And you have to be able to also give yourself that grace. I say that too. Forgive yourself for making mistakes, and keep moving on, and lean on those people that will always be there to support you and help you, pick up the pieces and keep going.
You were recognized, you have been recognized for, working across the party line, working across the aisle. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about bipartisanship. And from what you were just saying, I'm even wondering if that kind of showing up authentically the way you just described may have been one of the ways that you were able to bridge those differences.
For me, I've always been very much committed to building strong relationships with people, and I've done that throughout my entire life. And I think it's because I had to do that to survive. I had to do that when I came here as an immigrant. And so when I first got to Congress, I very quickly tried to develop relationships not only with people from my own party, but also from across the aisle, because I was curious. I wanted to have as many friends and as many close relationships in Congress as I could. I understood very quickly, Anthony, that I was only one of 435 members, and you can't get anything done if you think that you're going to be acting on your own. And I watch now some of these Congress members think that they're going to be able to make any changes. You can't do it alone in a house that's that large with so many members. You have to forge those relationships. You can't see people as enemies. You have to see them as human beings, and you need to spend time with people and understand what they're interested in doing. And I found a lot of common ground with some Republican members of the House that maybe we didn't agree on anything, but there were some on many things, but there were some things that we did agree on. And one of them was Francis Rooney, Representative Francis Rooney. We worked very closely together on protecting the coral reefs along the Florida coast. That was something that was important to me, to my constituents, and also for him. So we need to stop treating each other as enemies and start respecting one another as human beings with different ideas, different views, but that we have a lot of commonality, and we have to find that again.
Yeah. After Congress, you served in roles with Giffords and then also advising the State Department around the Summit of the Americas. What did stepping outside of Congress teach you about America's role in the world and really about the health of our own democracy?
The United States of America continues to be the beacon of hope for so many people across the globe. And what they see is right now a country that's highly divided. And for us to be able to continue to be global leaders, whether it's in science, research, technology, in our economy, in world peace, we have to start at home. And people are watching. And I remember having met with different leaders from different countries in Central America, South America. They have high respect for the United States, but they are watching what is happening to our domestic politics right now. And we have to make sure that whatever we do, we start here at home. Because if we protect our institutions, if we are able to have a government that's transparent, that serves the people, other countries will follow suit. The respect continues to be there. We are the beacon of hope, like I said, for so many, for millions in South America, in this hemisphere, but also in Europe and Asia. And we have to remember that what we say matters. People are listening, people are watching, and our power in the global stage continues to influence what happens in whether it's world peace, economic growth, or in science and technology.
Well, and that's a great segue because when you talk about that beacon of hope and the center of influence, I mean, Washington is where everyone looks, and steps from the White House, we have GW, and the Graduate School of Political Management continues to draw in people across their, young people and people who are later in their careers who want to make an impact, who want to see their power of influence grow so that they can make their communities and the world a better place. What made this moment and this mission, GSPM, the right next chapter for you?
Anthony, everything that I've done in my career really has brought me to this moment. And I've always been very passionate about education, especially higher education and graduate schools. I mean, I was able to get a great education. It was a great opportunity. I received a scholarship when I went to college, and then I got a master's degree. And the doors that opened for me because of that education wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have opened if it weren't for the schools that I went to, the people that I met in those schools, the mentorship that I received, the guidance from some incredible faculty. And so I'm very passionate about education. It's why I worked at a university here in Miami for over a decade. And it's why I'm back at in education at George Washington. I had the privilege of being able to be a fellow when after Congress for a year at the Graduate School of Political Management. I met some of the faculty members and some of the incredible students that were attending the program. And so I was so excited to come back. I think that our students are the future of government, not just here in the United States, but globally. And if we can graduate students that are going to have the integrity, the courage to lead and shape institutions that are going to protect our democracy, that are going to protect our freedoms, they will guide us to that next level. And they are the next generation. We need to be prepared to handle that mantle to the next generation. It's something that I know a lot of older members of Congress have been hearing from a lot of their constituents. It's time to pass that mantle. And I think that if we can graduate these students to be able to reach across the aisle, to lead with integrity, to lead with courage, then we have a bright future ahead. And I've met so many students already, Anthony, and they really give me hope, and they inspire me to also be a better leader for them as I continue in this work at the Graduate School of Political Management.
And it's so cool that you were a fellow after serving in Congress and you had a chance to get to know the program so well. And then, were able to come back full circle to step in as the leader. It's a great story. The program GSPM, I mean, it's so well known for training people who shape campaigns and public affairs, advocacy, governance, lead these institutions. Given your experience representing a swing district and navigating real world campaigns yourself, how do you hope this program will prepare students to, not just be partisans, but to, like you, become bridge builders capable of working across differences? Because that's really needed right now.
Yeah, I think that we need to ensure that our students can take off their partisan hat and always start with being curious about the people that they're talking to. Who are the people that they want to work for or represent? Some of them are already thinking about running for office. how can we train our students to be critical thinkers that are not going to immediately side with their own ideological beliefs, but that are going to try and look at different issues in ways that they can find better solutions for some of these very, very difficult challenges that we have ahead. I mean, we're talking about, AI. How is AI going to influence our economy? We're talking about the wars that we're witnessing right now in Europe. We're seeing what's been happening in Latin America with the rise of these dictatorships. And you have to be able to understand an issue very well and have strong critical thinking skills to make decisions that are going to impact the future of our country here in the United States. And I would say that they have to be reminded once again that so many of these issues should never be partisan, that so much of what people want is for government to just work for them. And if they remember that, they are going to put those partisan differences aside and talk to people as friends, as people that can work together on the issues that they find common ground on. And that's what I truly believe the mission of the graduate school is. We have to look at everything in a bipartisan manner. Look, there are many times that immediately I side with one view because I'm used to doing that. But somebody challenges me and I start listening and I learn a lot just from listening. And those are the values that I want to instill in our students. And I can tell you that we have some incredible students that already have learned that. The student that I was with on the Hill, we were doing advocacy work. I was supporting him in his work on mental health advocacy. And he knew very quickly that this was an issue that's not partisan. And it's an issue that he can bring both Republicans and Democrats to the table to work together on this issue. And we had meetings on a bipartisan fashion. And that's the model that we are going to use at the graduate school for any work that we do.
I love that example. And I was just going to say, I've had the chance to meet a lot of the students, and I've had a chance to guest lecture at GW and teach a little bit. And, it makes you feel so hopeful and optimistic when you see that spirit, like you just described, of working together, even if somebody might have differences, where they're working on a team and they're helping to solve problems. And it's kind of the antidote to cable news when you're feeling like the world's a pretty bad place to go interact with the young people.
Yeah, that's not a place to go if you're not feeling very optimistic. Go talk to a student, go talk to a neighbor, and believe me, that gives you so much more optimism and desire to continue moving forward than looking at your social media or watching cable news.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, as we kind of close out the conversation today, as you know, Chief Influencer, we're all about influence. And so I wanted to ask you, how do you define influence today, and how has that changed for you across your amazing career?
I've always felt that you need to be ready to do what you're asking others to do. And it's a way to inspire others to work closely together to enact change and to find common ground. And I think, like I said before, it's about reminding people around you that they have their own power, that they have their own strength, that they can be the agents of change. And if you can remind them of that, and if you can bring people together and have them see each other with the commonalities that they share, that's the power of being able to influence a group of people. And I feel like I've just been a vehicle of that. I feel like just by putting the people in the same room to have those conversations, when I see what happens when I bring those groups together and we leave the room with a mission and a goal and a commitment to reaching that goal, I feel like, that's the most rewarding work that I can do.
I am so grateful that we had a chance to hear from you today, Debbie, about your story. And I love what you said as in the close there about reminding people of the power they have. I mean, what an incredible way to expand your influence by building coalitions and building movements by just reminding people of the power that they have. And you shared many ways you can do that. One of which you mentioned several times is just listening. The power of listening to people, and giving them that agency shows them that they have that power. And we're a little bit talking about your own journey and your mom. And it just occurred to me as you were sharing that, I almost got chills a little bit, she reminded you and your sisters of that power she showed you all when she took that bold move to immigrate to the United States, to take those English classes and to work so hard and to show you that. And so you were reminded at a young age by a role model of the power you had, which spurred you to have this incredible career and raise your hand and jump into opportunities that neighbors and moms and, friends were telling you, why would you do that? And had the opportunity to serve in Congress to represent your constituents in South Florida, and then continue that career on to do so many other things. And now you're in a role where, what are you doing? You have these wonderful students at GW who want to change the world. And through your leadership, you're reminding them the power that they have, and you're showing them how they can make that impact so that we can build those bridges and create a brighter future. So it's such a pleasure to spend time with you, to hear your story. And I'm really excited for your tenure as the executive director of the Graduate School of Political Management. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. What a pleasure.
Chief Influencer is a production of Social Driver. We help clients transform complexity into clarity with people-centered strategies. Whether you're looking to elevate the influence of your brand or of your leaders, check out socialdriver.com to learn more. For show notes or to nominate a guest, visit us at chiefinfluencer.org or follow Chief Influencer on LinkedIn.